Sandy from Senior Slim Down with Sandy. So this is my week 5 Zepbound weight loss journey update. And this really was not the update that I thought I was going to give. I ended up going a week without my Zepbound medication. On the one hand, I kind of got a chance to see, how the Zepbound had been affecting me because I didn't have it. So, what was the difference between being on the Zepbound and being off the Zepbound? It especially gave me a chance to evaluate my sleep, which was really interesting. On the other hand, I feel like it really set me back and that I basically had to start over again. And I was really upset about it. So my first month on Zepbound was a sample from my doctor. And the way it worked out was that I was going to need my second KwikPen about 10 days or 2 weeks after the Medicare Bridge Program was supposed to have started. So when I saw the doctor at the end of June, I said, look, if there's any issues with me getting my approval from the Bridge Program, can I get another sample? And she said yes. And when I said she, I mean the actual doctor who administers the weight loss program. And this was only the second time I had seen her in 18 months. So I saw her when I very first started, and I saw her at the end of June. But in between that, I always saw the physician's assistant. Not to minimize the drama of my story, I did eventually end up getting approved for the Bridge Program and getting my Zepbound KwikPen. But I wasn't able to pick up my KwikPen until Saturday, and my regular injection day is Monday. And I very deliberately have Monday as my injection day because I figured at the very beginning, if I had any side effects, I'd want to have them at the beginning of the week, which is the regular work week for people who work. But when you're retired, you really aren't doing much between Monday and Friday, as opposed to taking my medication at the beginning of the weekend where it is possible I might have a social event or, something like that. Going out to eat is a lot more likely to be happening on a weekend than it is during the week. So by picking up my prescription on a Saturday, that meant I was 5 days past my regular injection day. And what Eli Lilly, the drug manufacturer, says, if you're 4 days past your regular injection day, you can go ahead and take the injection and then pick back up on your regular injection day. But if you're more than 4 days past your regular injection day, then you just need to skip that week's injection and go back to whatever your regular day was. So that is why I ended up going a whole week without my Zepbound injection. So what happened and why did this upset me so much? So first of all, it was kind of a perfect storm of things going wrong. The first thing that happened was there was just some issues with the pharmacy and the paperwork. And I think everybody kind of expected that to happen. Then there was an issue with the name on the prescription because I'd been trying to get Medicare to change my name to my legal married name since 3 years ago. It's the name that's on my driver's license. It's the name that's on my Social Security, but Medicare would just not update it. And because Medicare wouldn't update it, my insurance company wouldn't update it. And of course, Medicare decided to update my name 3 days before I was trying to get approved for the Medicare Bridge Program. Finally, the pharmacy had the paperwork all right. And then they let me know that they were out of stock on KwikPens and it would be in a couple days. So I was like, okay, well, I'll wait for that. And then by Saturday, they still weren't in stock and they had said they would be back in stock on Friday. So I called the pharmacy and they said, oh, do you want us to check at another store? Because this was like a grocery store pharmacy. And I'm like, duh, yes, please. And then it turned out the grocery store pharmacy, like 10 minutes away from the one that I was using, actually had them in stock and probably had them in stock from the very beginning. So that was, at the very least, very annoying. But that was not why I was upset. The reason that I was upset was because I tried multiple times to get a second sample from the weight loss clinic at the heart hospital because the doctor had said that they would give me one. And of course, I'm communicating with the administrator through the portal. And I asked her, not once, not twice, but 3 times through the portal could I come and pick up a sample. And she kept just, first she just said, no, let's wait and see what happens and see if you get approved for the bridge program. And then, like the last time I asked her, she just completely ignored me and didn't say anything at all. Then I called the nurse and left a message with her. Then when I didn't hear from the nurse, I called the front desk and they tried to connect me to the nurse. And then they came back and said, well, the nurse was on the phone with another patient. Now, I have worked in offices enough to know that when somebody don't want to talk to you, they say to the other person, just tell them on the phone with somebody else. So again, I tried 5 times to get another sample so that I wouldn't have to skip my dose. And it was just really, really upsetting. And I'm not sure that I understand why this was. I mean, maybe it was that the administrator was already overwhelmed with trying to deal with all this Medicare bridge stuff. That might be one reason. Maybe she thinks it sets a bad precedent to give patients more than one sample. I mean, it really wasn't like I was trying to, save any money and get a sample from them, so I didn't have to pay for it. And maybe, who knows what the deal was with the administrator. The only other thing that I can think of that I might have done was gone down to the heart hospital in person and stood there at the receptionist desk and said, give me my Zepbound. The doctor said it would be okay. Because I don't feel like any of this came from the doctor. The doctor said, okay, no problem. I feel like this came from some sort of bureaucratic middle person, who knows what. I mean, it was just so unclear why I could not get that sample. Of course, eventually, this admin at the weight loss clinic at the heart hospital did get me approved for the bridge program, which is awesome. And I am really grateful for that. But it just brought up all these feelings about all the times that people that I thought had my best interest in heart actually really didn't, or they just didn't care. And I'm talking about situations from parents to teachers to people that I've worked for, friends. We all have all these feelings that we carry inside of us about past experiences. And when things like this happen, it just brings it all up. And of course, I did have the Zepbound to quiet the mental chatter. So there was a lot of chatter going on about, why I couldn't get my meds. And what did I do with all of those upset feelings? Did I make a healthy meal? Did I take a walk? Did I do a meditation exercise? Of course not. Did some old-fashioned stress eating and some old-fashioned ruminating on how people are terrible. And of course, I'm going to mention this when I have my appointment at the heart hospital at the end of the month, because if I haven't lost very much weight, whose fault is it really? Isn't it their fault that I didn't lose any weight, or I didn't lose as much weight since they wouldn't give me my medication? And will they even care? Because at this point, isn't it all water under the bridge program? But besides being extremely aggravated, the other thing I noticed the week I didn't have the Zepbound is that I slept like a rock. So the Zepbound is definitely affecting my sleep. Someone suggested in the comments that I try magnesium, and I'm definitely going to do that. I've seen that recommendation in a couple other places. The other noticeable change is that I did have a lot of the mental chatter come back just in general and about food in particular. And what's really hard for me is not to eat at night after dinner, while I'm sitting there watching TV. So I guess that I have the choice of being thinner and sleepy or fatter and well rested. So definitely going to go for the thinner and sleepier because, I can always take a nap. So I'm back on track with the Zepbound, hopefully with some gratitude for being able to get on the bridge program and some forgiveness for the bureaucratic flaws of the medical establishment. I sure do not want to make an enemy of the admin at the weight loss clinic. And as I mentioned, I'm going to have my appointment at the weight loss clinic, and those numbers from my weigh-in at the weight loss clinic are going to be the ones that I use for my official weight loss, because I feel like week to week it can really vary, and you're going to see in general a much more substantial change if you just, look at it month to month. The other thing I'm going to do is start taking a picture so that I compare pictures month to month. So I think it'll be really interesting to have that visual record of how my weight loss has gone. So who's been approved for the Medicare Bridge Program? Did that process go smoothly for you? Did you feel like you were wandering through a maze of bureaucracy? I think we're starting to see a lot of people who have been approved. So at any rate, I'm looking forward to a world full of healthier boomers. So see you later.